Chris Lee and Blake Lovell from Southeastern 14 here, ready to talk Saturday's action in the NCAA tournament. March Madness is fully here. Do you know how I know that happened, Blake?
Because it snowed outside?
Yeah, because yesterday at about 1 o'clock it's 65 degrees here, and this morning I go to walk my dog, and there's 4 to 5 inches of snow on the ground.
Yeah. This is actually one of the reasons why I'm actually okay with the tournament being in Tampa today, because
Right.
if it was here, I probably wouldn't be able to get there because I don't think I can get out of my driveway right now. So yeah, I think that's it worked out okay, I guess.
All right, let's get right into it. Texas A&M pulls a stunner over Auburn. The Aggies meet Arkansas today in the semifinals. Do we have a line, and what are we thinking on this one?
I think Arkansas, according to our friends at Action 24/7, Arkansas is a 5.5 point favorite in this game. Sounds about right to me. I mean, look, it's day 3. We always talk about it. I think Arkansas is the kind of team that will try to force that, you know, that pressure for one, and I think the tempo is another one that we know Arkansas likes to get up and down the floor, and I think they will stress that a lot in this game, knowing that A&M has, now played back-to-back games, back-to-back days, of course, and so I think that's something to watch here. I know, so, like I've said, I know sometimes I think that can be exaggerated, but not always. I think A&M's a team that yesterday to me they were way more energetic yesterday than Auburn was, and I'm not saying that in terms of I think they were able to get into that rhythm because they were making shots and their defensive pressure allowed them to get in that rhythm. Whereas, again, I'm not saying Auburn didn't play hard, but it's because they could never really find any sort of rhythm whatsoever. It's just like they never got that energy going until that late run they tried to make late in the game. So yeah, I mean, I think this is an interesting matchup because A&M won the first game, but I mean, that was January the 8th, and that was right before Arkansas started to make its move. After that, they played an overtime game on the 22nd. So both teams are much different than they were on January the 22nd. So I think it's hard to know exactly what to expect, I guess, from this game. But I still think that Audie's Tony, and we said it yesterday, they're just so much better when he's on the floor. And I think for anyone that doubted that, yesterday was a prime example. I mean, it's just he does so many different things for them. Whether it's I mean, look, he made shots yesterday from outside. I mean, when he's hitting threes, like look out because that adds a dimension that, quite frankly, hasn't really had all this year, right? So that's the first time. I mean, that's 2 threes, the most he's hit in a game all year. So if he's knocking down shots from outside, we know what he can do rebounding wise. We talked about his defense. I think just having him back is so significant. But I would expect this to be a game. I mean, I think it's, does A&M just run out of gas? That to me is the question. And if not, I think their pressure and their defense will cause some issues as we've seen thus far. And I think they will look. Buzz Williams, I don't know for anyone who never thought that Buzz Williams was the right fit at Texas A&M. I know it's been a little up and down at times, first, couple years there or whatever, but this guy is X's and O's wise. You're not going to find many better out there than Buzz Williams. Like he understands matchups. Like he understands the defensive aspect of it. He is so good at that. And so I'm actually one of the things I'm most curious about is how does he approach this game from that standpoint with Note and Jalen Williams and those kind of guys. So I think this will be fun. Really, I do, and I think A&M is a team that I'd be surprised if they just come out and compete 15 or something here. I think that they are clearly on a mission to get to the NCAA tournament, and they still need one more to do it. So,
Yeah, I'm going to try to update some bracket stuff later on Texas A&M because A&M really flew up in the computer rankings overnight, and I'm with so many bubble teams having bad weeks. I really wonder if A&M has a puncher's chance to get in even without a win today. I think not, but I want to look at that a little later. It won't be in this video. But the Muss Bus did not have to expend as much gas to get by LSU as we thought yesterday, which was a disappointing game, to be honest. We thought that one could go down to the wire and be a war. Said Arkansas seized control of that one pretty quickly, never let go. Now, here's what I'm
Yeah,
wondering. A&M has had to use a lot of energy.
that's a good point.
In the Florida game, it was very, as you mentioned, energetic yesterday. These are the games, it's game 3. We saw it happen in certain ways to Vanderbilt last night. That third game, especially against a team like Arkansas, which is going to really get into you, get aggressive, uh, just really try to control the tempo. That's what I worry about for A&M. I think that A&M can hang with Arkansas for a half, but I worry about the second half and just does A&M have enough gas left in the tank to get it done?
Somewhat similar to Kentucky Vanderbilt. I mean, it's not the same, but Calipari said it after the game last night in that one. He said, "Look, that was our goal was to get to their legs in the second half." And I mean, we saw Kentucky got up and down the floor and really tried to push it on the break. If they get a steal, they try to get it down the floor, get quick shots, those kind of things. And yeah, you could certainly see the similar scenario here from Arkansas. And I mean, we know too. It's just the way Arkansas plays. It's just a very again. You have Note. You have. I mean, what Chris Likes did yesterday. I don't think that should be underplayed at all because if Chris Likes plays like that, like Arkansas Final Four team. I mean, I'm just saying, like that's what they need is someone like that because we talked about it. I mean, Chris Likes he's taken a lot from the fan base this year. I mean, I've seen it on Twitter and it's just he's been up and down. But man, he's brought it the last couple games, and so I think you certainly have to give him credit for that, and that's what they need. It gives you another guy you can plug in there because that's what we talked about with Arkansas. They basically at times have played 5 guys, in terms of those 30 plus minutes. But if they can get what they got yesterday out of him, man, I mean, you get what did he play 29 minutes yesterday? Yeah, I mean, you're still playing 6 guys, but still, if you got all 6 of those guys playing 20 or more minutes, I know Amude only played 20, but I think a little bit was that. I don't know if that was foul. I can't remember. Yeah, once again, I'm going to say this for the 80th straight video. It all runs together in these tournaments, but I think that's an important part of this. Is I mean, think about that. Think about this for a second. Arkansas wins that game. I don't want to say easily, but they were in control. I never really felt like LSU was going to win that game yesterday. But they do that with Jalen Williams only scored 6 points. He has 11 rebounds, 4 blocks, impacts the game in a lot of ways. But if they can get by beating a number 5 or 6 seed in the NCAA tournament with Jalen Williams only having 6 points, you got to feel pretty good about how you're playing right now. So that's where, again, someone like Likes playing the way he did. Of course, Note, and we talked about Tony. Yeah, I'm going to pick Arkansas in this game. I think there is something to the thought of A&M just again being on a mission, and it'd be great to see them get into the NCAA tournament. But Arkansas fans will not agree with that because it would have to come at the expense of them, getting to the championship here. So we'll see what happens. But I think this will be fun. I think this should be another good game. Like I said, I think I'm most intrigued by just how Buzz approaches this game from that standpoint of just the matchups and the defense. So.
Yeah, Likes, if you just look at the box scores from this year, and there's been games where he barely played. I think he averaged, 15, 16 points a game at Miami a year ago. You mentioned Tony. Tony was a much bigger contributor at Pitt than he is at Arkansas in terms of scoring. I think that's a fascinating storyline that we have not talked about enough is Arkansas's got guys in reserve who were maybe third, fourth, fifth options on this team in terms of scoring that have been lead dogs other places. And I think that could be a factor not just this week, but next.
Yeah, and I mean, it's what we say. You never know how the pieces are going to fit together when you have transfers, and took a while, just as I expected. Again, I was probably someone going into the season. I said we talked about it. I mean, it just to me it still felt like there was something missing early in the season. We talked about it a lot, and I admit, like I was not as high on Arkansas going into the season because of that. Because I was thinking, all right, how do they put this all together? But then once you see them put it together, it's like, okay, well, they figured it out. And whatever, again, that we talked about it for 2 months now, whatever that missing piece was, they found it. And hey, if Chris Likes is that missing piece that they've needed to make a deep run in the NCAA tournament now to how they're playing right this second, that could be significant because again, if he plays like he did yesterday, they're going to be in good shape because again, that they you I don't think you have to have I don't think you have to go 9, 10 deep to be able to win an NCAA title or get to the Final Four. But I think in those kind of scenarios, you need an extra something, right? And you can't just rely on 5 guys. I think you've got because the injuries and all that. I mean, that's what we said. The Tony thing was so significant because it's not a team that plays a lot of guys. So that I think is certainly something to watch. But I'm telling you, I think A&M will. Quentin Jackson, he's played as well as anybody in the league over the past. I don't know what the time frame is. I'd have to look it up, but I mean, Radford was great yesterday. Henry Coleman. I mean, these guys are got to remember like this is a very talented team. It's just for A&M, I think kind of like Arkansas flipped a little bit. It just took a lot longer, I think, for them to figure it out. So, especially against the good teams, right? We talk about this 8-game losing streak they had, but it just took them a while to figure it out against the good teams what they had to do to win. And so yeah, it sets up to be a fun semifinal.
Well, I feel like we haven't hit the A&M end enough, and we need to do that for a minute before we go to Tennessee, which I know you just hit it for a minute there. But Coleman and Jackson have been so consistent for them when we picked our East versus West All-Star teams. I know we were having fun with that, but you had Coleman and Jackson pretty comfortably on your team. And the other guy, Tyrese Radford, the Virginia Tech transfer, sometimes it takes transfers, like you mentioned, a while to assimilate. He's been great in this tournament. Hit some huge shots, would hit his first 5 threes the other day. They've got some depth with Hassan Diarra, Andre Gordon, Wade Taylor, those guys, and Hayden Hefner, a walk-on who has worked his way into a role of significance at times. A&M has got the athleticism to hang with Arkansas, no question. My question again just goes back to energy, and that's why I have a hard time picking against Arkansas. And 5.5 points seems like something the Razorbacks could cover too under this scenario.
Yeah, that's a tricky one to me. I just think A&M. I know the legs may be what we talk about the most, but that's a team that I mean they play a lot of guys. So I mean they're able to kind of I mean again Quentin Jackson only plays 22 minutes yesterday. Um, Diarra played 24. Gordon plays 17. I think we got to keep that in mind with them. They play quite a few guys, and so maybe you can get away with that a little bit in terms of maybe it's not as much of a factor. But we'll see because Arkansas does push the tempo as we said. But I think A&M is there is just something like to me is even just going beyond the matchups and stuff. I think this is a team that clearly you can see it in how they play. They are on a mission, and Buzz has gotten in their ear about, hey, this is what we have to do to get into the NCAA tournament. We have to win these games. They figured out a way to win against Florida, rallied, Gators rallied, they hold them off. Figured out a way against Auburn, Auburn rallies, they hold them off. And so, I mean, I think that confidence speaks to something there. And look, this is just a team that has been a team of streaks this year. I mean, we talk about the 8-game winning streak, 8-game losing streak. Now they've won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now they've won 7 of 8. The only game they lost was at Vanderbilt in that stretch. I mean, it's kind of that team where when they get going, man, they're very confident right now. So I think this is a good game. That 5.5 is, man, that's tough because I think I would maybe even go A&M plus 5.5 here. I think this will be a good game, but I can't in my mind I can't factor in the equation of what if Arkansas just runs them up and down the floor for 30 minutes and then from that last 10 minutes it's just Arkansas's more fresh and they've just got the better legs under them for their shots and those kind of things. So I think it'll be a good game. Again, I'd be surprised if it's not. I think A&M as a team. I know fatigue. We always say it, but this is a team that can rest all off season after today if they don't win. I mean, they'll be in the NIT, but it's just I think they're playing for something big here, and I don't think you can underestimate that aspect too.
Tell folks about our partnership with Action 24/7 before we move
Yep,
to Kentucky, Tennessee.
Action 24/7. Promo code South14. Description below. Click on that link. First deposit they'll match up to $800. So you can use that if you want to bet on any of these games. And so yeah, we've got another big one to talk about here. We'll try not to slight this one, but as we know, sometimes it takes our videos uh, 6 hours to upload. So hopefully we'll we'll
Right.
get through this one. I promise Kentucky and Tennessee fans, if we don't spend as long, it's just because we have to try to cut it off at some point because we're recording this about 3 hours before game time, and you never know with our videos these days if they're going to upload in time. So
One other partner to tell you about quickly, it's Stakes. You can find it in the App Store. You can join the thousands of sports lovers playing Stakes, the sports-themed social network dedicated to everyone from the fanatics to the casual fans. Stakes is a place to prove your knowledge and win prizes and bragging rights by wagering and making predictions against your friends, other sports fans, even some of your favorite social media personalities like us. Our account is Southeastern 14 over there, so be sure to look that up as we're putting up polls every day. Sign up, use our code Southeastern14 to wager with us. It's free. You get tokens, you can win NFTs and some other cool stuff. They'll also have a bracket challenge we'll tell you about next week coming up, or maybe even tomorrow. But anyway, I guess technically that is next week. All right, Kentucky, Tennessee. The Vols didn't really get pushed by Mississippi State. Kentucky did get pushed by Vanderbilt, as we kind of expected before Kentucky's, I just thought, ability to get better shots was the difference down the stretch. This one's going to be a good one. Kentucky was my pick before the tournament to win the whole thing. I don't think that changes, but let's make a case here.
well, I mean, to me, this is fairly clear, isn't it? In terms of is Kennedy Chandler, what's that look like
Yeah,
today?
there is that.
I mean, to me, that's the like we have flipped it from talking about Ty Washington and Kentucky to now. For me, it's is Kennedy Chandler gonna play? I mean, I think he is, but what we always say about ankle injuries in the heat of the moment, like those are ones you can probably, if it's not too bad, I think it's one where you kind of go on the adrenaline. But ankle injuries usually a day after. You feel like it's probably not. That's one of those things you just don't know. So Rick Barnes, I know he said it, during the game. He said, "Hey, we've got to trust that he says he's fine. He's fine." And I think, like we're saying, we have no idea because we're recording this, in the morning, and I'm sure we'll have a better idea. But I mean, if you watched that game last night, that what was it, the second one, third one? I don't remember, but you're watching that and you're just thinking, boy, that did not look good. But yet, he still plays, and I mean, well, it's 3 times though, wasn't it? I think it was 3 times. So but that's too with an ankle. Like that's kind of one of those things where it's not gonna. What is it? What's the best way to put it? Like it's not gonna hurt it worse because it's just kind of one of those things where if you keep rolling it, like it's, I don't know what that. There's a word for it, but um, so to me, that's what this comes down to for Tennessee, right? It's, do you take that risk?
Well, and that's a good question because I've got Tennessee as a 2 seed this morning. I may be in the minority, but I look at the resumes. I think it's a very compelling case. I don't think Tennessee can get to a 1. I think that's a 5-team conversation right now. Unfortunately, Auburn is out of it, and Kentucky would be the SEC team that's in it, fighting with some other teams in front of it. I think, depending on what Kansas does today, that could crack the door. Anyway, I'm with you. I just don't know if you're Tennessee and it's questionable. This isn't the tournament that matters for you. I mean, yes, it's nice to win. It's bragging rights. It's another notch in your belt. But I don't think Tennessee can get to a 1. And if I'm the committee, I'm watching this and I'm going, okay, if Tennessee loses, it's close. They don't have Chandler. They don't have Chandler at full strength. I don't know how much you dock Tennessee for a loss to Kentucky anyway, but you certainly take that into consideration if Chandler isn't a go or isn't a full go. I'm just wondering, not knowing, but if it's me, I'm keeping next week in mind with Kennedy Chandler, Blake. I don't know what Rick Barnes is thinking. Maybe we are overblowing this, but based on what we know or maybe don't know, I think you have to wonder.
That's the question I have. I'm with you. I picked Kentucky to win this tournament. I'm not going to change my pick just because I mean there was nothing to me to change that, but I do wonder if that is a scenario because well, I mean we all have to be realistic here. If he doesn't play, that's a big piece that's not on the floor for Tennessee. Not to say that those other guys, because what have I talked about for weeks now? They're playing as well as anyone in the country, and the reason why is because of those four guards, whether it's Chandler, Vescovy, James. Um, why am I blanking on Ziegler?
Ziegler.
It's like all four of those guys when they play well. I've said there are not a lot of teams in the country that can beat Tennessee. I think when those four guys play as well as they can, like the chemistry is there. We've seen it, but you take Chandler out of the equation, who I think is kind of the guy that brings everything together in that group. That's big. And so, but that's what we have to keep too in perspective is that yes, you want to win this game. Yes, you want to win the SEC tournament, but at the expense of something like that, I'm just not sure. So I don't know. Again, we're playing a game that we don't know the answer to in terms of we don't know his status. We don't know, we have no idea as of right now as we're recording this. So I think that to me is just the big question. And I think if we knew that, we'd have probably have a better feel on where things could play out because I can't imagine that he's probably going to be 100% at this point going into this game. I mean, because it is right. I mean, it's a 2 p.m. game, I think, Central Time. So I mean, that's less than 24 hours to kind of be in that spot. So again, I'm still going to pick Kentucky, but that to me is something that I'm thinking about because I'm looking ahead for Tennessee, and I'm thinking, man, I wouldn't want that to be something where you know you take a chance on something like that, and then tournament rolls around and he's just not right. You want to because he's had such a good year, and so I think that's. I mean, but look, Rick Barnes is not an idiot. He'll know what to do in this scenario. And like he said, he trusted him last night. Trainers are not going to put him out there last night if they don't think that he can go out there. So I think maybe it is. We'll see, but we just don't know the answer, and that's why we have no choice but to kind of speculate on it because we don't know his status as of right now.
I just sent a text as we're doing this to somebody who's on the ground in Tampa who's pretty connected to that program. If we get an answer before the end of this video, we'll let you know. And if we don't and we get one before the game, we'll drop that in the comments. So
We'll see. I mean, Kentucky played really well last night. I think I saw so much of this on social media. I just think it's so silly. People are saying, well, Kentucky's just, I don't know what these people are watching. Vanderbilt played really well last night. And so I think you got to give Vanderbilt credit. It's not, oh, Kentucky's barely getting by Vanderbilt. Come on, man. Watch the games. Like, Vanderbilt played well, and Kentucky looked good. I mean, man, they
like they're
look
just
good.
they're just so solid. It is hard to find a weakness with them when they're at full strength.
Yeah.
Honest to God, right now, if and I want to see the matchups, but I think if I had to make my pick today, I think that's who I take to win the national title. I just watch them. Even when they lose, they're not far off. You've got explanations. They can get such good looks with their athleticism and the presence of Sheboy in the post. And God knows if there's any team that knows how to turn it on this time of the year, it's Kentucky.
Boy, Ty Ty Washington looked good last night.
Oh, yes, he did. Yes, he did. Every
He,
time Vanderbilt was just staying with them and they needed a bucket, they'd find an open kick out to him, and he just would bury every single one of them.
yeah, yeah, he looked good. That's your player of the year good that he without the injuries he looked like that and that's encouraging for Kentucky because like we said this was a team we had questions about or were they all going to be at full strength at this point once they got here to the SEC tournament we were having those talks the last couple of weeks of the season and they look full strength to me and that's a problem I think for a lot of other teams so we'll see but again to me this is I'll pick Kentucky just because I picked Kentucky to win the thing when we did our big bracket a couple days ago. But I just think the Kennedy Chandler thing is what I have my eye on most because I know there's probably some people out there that are thinking, oh, he's fine. He just put him out there and it'll all be fine. Worry about it later. I don't think you can do that here. I mean, he's too valuable to this team. And again, your bigger prize is the NCAA tournament. And so I'm just curious more than anything. We'll see. Again, I'm not trying to make this more than it is. I just we don't know, and I think that's the issue is we have no idea. So
Any parting thoughts?
no, I think two good games. I think these will both be very good, and yeah, I mean, I really like. To me, this feels like there's a reason these four are in the semifinals, and I think they should be two games that should be close. I mean, I would not expect this to be either game just to be a full on blowout, even with Arkansas A&M. Like I said, I don't see it, and maybe I'm going to be wrong on that, but I think A&M will bring it again, and I just think it's can they keep it for 40 minutes, and then I think with Tennessee Kentucky, if Tennessee's guards play well, Chandler's on the floor, all is well. That Tennessee will absolutely challenge Kentucky in terms of their guard play. We've seen it before, and then for me, it's just Kentucky. I'm curious to see the crowd, because there's gonna be a lot of blue in there. It doesn't matter where the SEC tournament's played. At some point, the arena is going to become Lexington, Kentucky, and I think
Sounded like
that's
that
another one.
last night.
It did, and so today's different, right? Because you got what it's not single session. Is it single session today? Do they do 1 and 2? I don't know. I think or do they just do the all one session for tickets? That is a curious
Oh,
thing to me.
that's a well. I think it has to be one session because
Yeah,
game
right.
two was
Because they're
25 minutes
yeah.
afterwards.
So I
I
think
haven't
that's
had tickets in so long you forget, but
that is what I think. Too. I'm curious to see that. How many? What's the percentage going to be in there? I don't think it's going to be a lot of A&M fans. We're not knocking them, but going to be a lot of Kentucky. Going to be a lot of Arkansas. A lot of Tennessee. So should be fun.
all right, be sure to hit subscribe. We'll have some coaching carousel stuff, I think, today. I'm working on some bracket stuff. We may do a video on that today or tomorrow. That is just drinking out of a fire hose at this time of year, and I want to make sure I get it right before I I go too definitive on it. But any parting thoughts, Blake?
Real quickly, we will put up something tomorrow for the selection Sunday live stream. We're going to do our best with that. Still haven't figured out the time, but it doesn't matter. You're going to be watching the selection show. We'll figure it out. We'll let you know in the morning, and we'll put that up. So just be on the lookout for that. And yeah, so there you go.
Thanks for watching. And again, if we get info on the Chandler injury situation, which I've not gotten a text returned, and as we're doing this, we'll drop that in the comments. But thanks for watching. We'll see you again plenty more this weekend.